Anti-tyranny strike falls flat in Valletta. Education Ministry's permanent secretary resigns over Bogdanovich scandal. And the Prime Minister apologises after being filmed maskless in SLIEMA restaurant. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to tonight's episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Lisa, joined by Jonathan Cilia, and it's been a very hot day of news in our offices today, so we're going to get right in. John, take it away.
So a national call by the Freedom Movement to strike against the latest COVID-19 rules and regulations fell a bit flat today, as only around 30 people showed up at 10 a.m. in Valletta. So Lovin Malta was actually on the scene this morning. We had our journalist Gianluca Barbara there to speak to, organisers of this protest/call for a strike. So basically, if you're not aware, they were hoping that hundreds, if not thousands of workers today would not show up for work and instead show up in Valletta as a show en masse, a force to show that they are standing against the new COVID-19 rules. So just if you're not aware, today some new rules came into effect. You can no longer enter establishments such as restaurants, bars, or even gyms if you are not up to date with your vaccination certificate. Obviously, a very controversial decision among many segments. We spoke to one of the organizers, Paul Ketkuti, who said, listen, okay, only 30 people showed up today, but, quote, it's not the be-all and end-all of the protest movement. In the video that we actually uploaded to Instagram, you can see that there's actually a little bit of a standoff between a journalist and the organizers. The journalist is actually from Malta Today. Apparently, he was asking some questions. I guess the organizers did not appreciate the tone he was asking the questions with, and they actually got quite aggressive to the journalist, I felt, calling them fake news and saying that the media is responsible for so much of this. So clearly tensions were very high in Valletta today.
Yes, a lot of people are quite peed off about the whole mask wearing and vaccine restrictions that are currently newly enforced. And I think there's a lot of frustration there. I do also think that perhaps the poor turnout, John, was due to the fact that it is a Monday morning and most people do have a job that they need to go to. And while they can voice themselves very clearly on social media and amongst their friends, most people do kind of have the responsibility to head to work on a Monday. So perhaps that is the reason why there was nobody there. But we have got reports of perhaps something else happening.
Indeed, Lovin Malta will definitely be reporting if there is a protest happening in Valletta tonight. We are hearing through the grapevine, as it were. I mean, let's be very clear. There was a protest in Valletta yesterday against the vaccine rules. There was a protest last Sunday. I don't know if this protest is going to become a weekly addition to the Valletta landscape, but you can rely on Lovin Malta to be there reporting on these protests as they evolve.
And, talking about people who have to go to work, John, or people who don't have to go to work, Frank Fabry has resigned as permanent secretary of the Education Ministry in the wake of the scandalous contract awarded to Daniel Bogdanovich by former Minister Justine Caruana. Now, Fabry had stood steadfastly by the minister when the story broke. As a recap, the minister awarded a €15,000 per year contract to Daniel Bogdanovich. It is rumoured that she was linked to him romantically, and obviously this sort of contract was viewed very controversial. In fact, the minister has resigned following a report by Standards Commissioner George Hisler. While Frank Fabry stood by her side throughout all this, it seems that the pressure to be held accountable did not subside, and he has now resigned from his post.
Yeah, so just to be clear, it's a €15,000 3-month contract. And, I do wonder if it was, Frank Fabry's decision to resign. Like you've pointed out, he's been very steadfast in his support for the minister. And I would like to know if, it was his decision to resign or he was asked to resign. Hopefully in the next few days, we'll get some clarification on that. Talking about clarification, Prime Minister Roberta has apologized today after he was filmed walking around a restaurant maskless in SLIEMA. So this footage was actually first published by the Times of Malta. You can find it on our Instagram and Facebook as well. And it shows Prime Minister Roberta in MedAsia, a restaurant in SLIEMA. It's a very short clip, but basically he stands up. Apparently he's going to the restroom and he's not wearing a mask. He speaks to some people, then he walks up the stairs and he disappears from sight. A spokesperson from the Office of the Prime Minister said that while mask use is not obligatory when seated, this was, quote, an oversight, that the Prime Minister went to the restroom without it, and they clarified that Abela had been wearing a mask when he walked into the restaurant and out of the restaurant. So, it goes to show, it is easy, and I can say I go to restaurants often enough, and it is easy enough that when you stand up to go to the bathroom or go get a sauce or salt or whatever it is, I guess you can forget your mask. However, this is literally the leader of the nation. He has signed off on all these rules, so there is an expectation that he would be the first among all of us to be wearing the masks if he's saying that people could be fined for not wearing a mask.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, John, it's happened to all of us, right? I think everybody stood up at some point and forgot to put their mask on. I think it's a very easy oversight to happen. Also, an addition I'd like to make is that if everybody is now boosted inside restaurants, perhaps the mandatory mask wearing inside the restaurant is no longer so needed, exactly. So anyway, talking about leaders and people in the limelight, Roberta Metsola is the clear favourite to become European Parliament President tomorrow. This is the highest office ever held by a Maltese candidate within the EU, should she achieve it. She represents the EPP party, which is the largest political group in the European Parliament. The second largest party, which is the Socialists and Democrats, did not have a nominee, and the third largest party, which is Renew Europe, endorsed her as a candidate. Metsola is one of 4 candidates, and should she get elected, she will be the face of the European Parliament. This is a huge achievement for her, but also on a national level, this could go a long way to improving Malta's standing within the global community.
No, this is incredible. A real special moment for Malta, for the PN, and for Roberta Metsola herself. What's more important, actually, is tomorrow's actually her birthday. What are the chances? She'll be turning 43, and if she does get elected, she'll be the youngest EP president in the history of the bloc. So this is really, really a special moment. Last December, Malta made international headlines by legalizing cannabis, the first country in Europe to do so. So you got Germany, Luxembourg, who are going to be looking at us now for policy. If we have a Maltese politician leading the European Parliament, I mean, what next? Malta's slowly taking over the EU and becoming one of the pioneers in the bloc. So truly a special moment. Just so we're clear on the procedure, at 11 a.m. tomorrow, voting will start. Love Malta actually has Julian Bonici on the scene there, so we will have up-to-the-minute coverage, so definitely stay tuned. It could be over immediately. They're going to go to a vote, and if over half of all MEPs vote for Roberta Metsola, she'll be crowned the new president. If the first vote isn't, that cleared, it goes to a second vote, a third vote, till eventually a clear winner is called out. So 11 a.m. tomorrow, stay tuned on Lovin Malta to see if Malta makes more history on the European level. And bringing it back to the Maltese level for our final story today, X Factor Malta viewers took to social media yesterday and this morning. They were quite unhappy with one of the judges' performances. So, obviously X Factor Malta has 4 judges. We've got Irolosko Howard, and we have Ivan Grek, who's a very popular singer from the band Winter Moods, right? Yeah. But apparently he rattled some jimmies yesterday after he sent off Jimmy. And many people felt like he should have done more to step up for a singer that they believe is a very talented singer, a great voice, who deserved to be continued on in this journey. So if you hadn't seen the show, Jimmy ended up in a sing-off with the band Beyond, and when the judges voted for who should continue, Greg did not vote for Jimmy. He instead voting for Beyond, so that they're balanced. They had 2 votes each from 4 judges, and it ended up leading to Jimmy actually being kicked off. Many people were very, very, very disappointed, and someone said, quote, "If you are a judge, you have to judge, and your job, Ivan Grek, was very easy after the sing-off, but you absconded from your responsibility. Shame." Some very heightened emotions in the wake of Jimmy being taken off X Factor Malta. So from 12 contestants, there are now 10.
Yeah, well, X Factor is a popularity contest in of itself, and so that does sort of get people very emotionally charged. Everybody wants to win, everybody wants their favourites to win. So yeah, people were quite critical of Ivan's move yesterday. I do understand where they're coming from. You cannot please everybody. You are there to judge, you are there to make the tough decisions about who gets to the final of X Factor. These are big decisions to make, and you should wear that responsibility with pride. And that brings us to the end of today's news. Thank you for watching. and we wish you an evening full of lovin'.